Thank you. Those are very interesting facts, especially knowing that like East Coast has majority of the entrepreneurs. So I think we are finally on to your session. I know just 35 minutes late for a virtual event, not bad, right? Sorry about that because you were like you both were very interested in the startup showcase, so I didn't want to interrupt and speed them up, and even the startup founders were great. Before I give the stage to you, I would like to introduce our two mentors. I didn't get a chance to introduce them before. Periyannan is the co-founder and chief technology officer of BlueJeans Network, a pioneer in business video conferencing, recently acquired by Verizon, the largest mobile operator in the US. Erica has 25 years of research, product development, and entrepreneurial experience in the Silicon Valley, bringing innovative network and video products to market. Erica co-founded BlueJeans 10 years ago after a brief stint as an entrepreneur in residence at venture firms, Norvis Venture Partners and Greylock Partners. Prior to that, he was CTO of Blue Code Systems, the leader in web security for larger Fortune 500 enterprises. I mean, his experience, like other mentors, is really long. But one interesting fact I noticed was he started his career at Apple in the 1990s in their advanced technology group, working on video over network, and was a founding member of the QuickTime streaming team, the underlying foundation for Apple's iTunes and media products. Arega is also an alumni from BITS Pilani. We have many folks joined who are from BITS Pilani. Next, our next guest, Krish. Mr. Krish Ramakrishnan is also the co-founder and first CEO of BlueJeans Network, which was recently acquired by Verizon. At Verizon, Krish leads the market expansion of BlueJeans into new areas such as telehealth, remote learning, and 5G. Krish has been founder and CEO of successful startup ventures, including Topspin, a data center virtualization player, and Internet Junction. Krish served as general manager for various business units at Cisco for over 10 years. Krish currently serves as a trustee of Landmark College in Vermont. In 2019, Krish was awarded as a honorary doctorate degree from Monmouth University. Krish also has an MScs from Monmouth University and a bachelor from Madras University. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for being the mentor to the startup team. Now the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Pony. Thanks everybody. The awesome startups we heard. I mean, Krish and I are reminded of like some of the hackathons we've had internally, where you can never like keep to the time. There's always interesting questions. But it's great to be with all of you. Good afternoon. I guess it's afternoon everywhere. We're both joining you from the West Coast. Thank you to the ATEA. When Prakash invited me, a few weeks ago to be the keynote, he wanted to, it's a Tamil conference, being of Tamil origin. So I said, hey, what's better than, one Tamil entrepreneur? Like, we got two Tamil entrepreneurs here. So, I'm happy to share the stage here with my partner in crime, my mentor, Krish. You guys, hopefully some of you have used our product, BlueJeans. We're now part of a larger Verizon family. I certainly have used Verizon, I'm sure. For us, for this session, 30 minutes, we wanted to see, what's the best areas we could cover. And we picked, wanted to sort of give some people a little bit of lessons we've learned, some, parts of our journey. And so we're going to be covering sort of three areas. One is about sort of people, a little bit about how Krish and I met and the founding, how we built our team. The second is, about the product, the idea formation and sort of, getting that product market fit. I know there was a session earlier on that. And then the last most important one is pivots. I mean, some of the startups we heard here, really sort of saw what was happening in the market and had to make that change. And so we, want to talk about some of the pivots we did and how that, all worked. So with that, three Ps, we just said I came up with that. Let's jump in. And, I wanted to, the format we're going to follow really is, Krish and I are going to almost like interview each other. And so I'll start off with, Krish, talk about, how we met and were you really looking for a co-founder? Do people actually need a co-founder to start a company? Just, why don't you tell us more about that?
Yeah, Algau, thank you. Before I want to get started, I'm also very excited to be here. I listened to all that startup. I echo with what Algau was saying. We went through many of this. Nice to be in that early stage with that drill running to kickstart a company. Going back to when I started as an EIR at Excel, one of the venture firms, I wasn't looking for a co-founder. I was just looking for an idea to develop a company on, and I had interest in video. And I ran into Algau, and we both said, hey, we want to start something in video. And it dawned on me that with Algau's strong technical skills, as you just heard his background in QuickTime and everything else, we quickly hit it off. So one of the things that it touched upon is, why do you need a co-founder? You may not need it. After all, if you have a co-founder, you're sharing the stage. But what I found is a co-founder is very useful, very beneficial, because it's always going to be lonely at the top, right? And you can bounce decisions off each other. And there's lots of, and you can bring complementary strength to each other and so on. So it actually strengthens us. Not everybody can be great at everything else. So Algau and I found this great partnership. And one of the things I want to touch on is, how do you get a co-founder? How do you know it's going to work? So what I feel is a critical ingredient, if you're looking for a co-founder with you, is, do you have the same shared value? And that is critical. If you have the same shared value, in our case, trust and honesty, transparency, and building a people culture was very important too. And it so happened it was important to Algau. So it could be anything as a core value, but that's how we started, how we met, and it's been an 11-year journey. I argue we have some disagreements, but mostly in a professional sense, but by and large, 99% very positive.
Yeah, no, Krish, it's been great. I mean, I think some of us shared, when we used to hang out at the Plug and Play in Sunnyvale. I remember, almost on a daily basis, we go have dosas at Vaigai and the Madras coffee. So we like some of that food too, right? So I mean, I think when it comes to a founding team, we're very fortunate that we found each other. And I think one important thing is, when I disagree with Krish, I mean, one of the, it sort of initially bothers me. Then I sort of look at it from his point of view, and, that type of empathy is really important, in any type of partnership.
So one of the things we did was Algau always had a good communication privately. So we don't whether in staff or any place else, we don't if we had a disagreement, we made it private. So that helped. Basically. You
can break into Tamil. That's right.
Yes.
There you go. We didn't do that very often, though. Yeah.
Algau, I mean, once we locked in on a product strategy, which we are going to talk about, one of the things that in the people context is the importance of hiring an early team. And I know that early team actually forms the culture of the company that sustains over 10 years, culture that keeps the company together. So maybe you can share your thoughts on, because the early team is all engineering. How did you go about bringing one of the best teams that I have seen?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, we'll get into some of this in the product. I mean, though Krish and I have been sort of in the valley and done various things in networking and video, video conferencing itself is not something we had done before anytime in the recent past. So it was very important for us to build a team where if we had to go disrupt a market, we had to build a team that knew the space, but also a team that did not know the space. So we sort of split the team 50-50. We wanted to bring completely, industry outsiders. I mean, both of us were sort of industry outsiders from the video conferencing. Krish was at Cisco, but he wasn't working in telepresence or any of those WebEx or any of that. We weren't from Polycom and Microsoft and some of the other companies that were doing video. So we very clearly said half the initial team needs to not be from the space, and the other half needs to be from the space, because we don't want to go make the same mistakes. So that was a very key piece in the early team. Now, the interesting thing is the first person we hired was actually, if you recall, Krish, Tasha, who is sort of later on, became head of people in HR. But we hired her just to recruit. And we had this, we needed specific people that we would identify, or sort of areas we would identify. And then she would really go find a way to connect with those people and hire and, get them excited. So, our first hire was really not, we had some engineers and others who we knew lined up, but, Tasha was one of our sort of very early hires. And then I think we started India fairly early, and in the process, I think that was an important component. And we took a very, very different approach. A lot of companies at that time were focused on just getting work done in India. We really, brought the India team on early and gave them full ownership. Today we have product management, design, not just, people developing software based on, things being spec'd out in the US.
So the early team that we hired were pioneers. They were not experts in video conferencing. One of the things that you always said was, right, you hired good people, athletes who can actually, design things from first principle. And I think that has helped as well. And that's a good lesson for everybody. You don't have to hire the expert as long as you hire good people. They can actually take you much better. But it's the same journey, though. One of the things, Algau, we went through this. The early team does not mean that the early team is what you rely on. In BlueJeans' case, we were very successful and we built a very good product. But as the company grew, one of the lessons we learned is we have to constantly be changing your talent pool, whether it be in engineering, marketing, sales, every aspect of the business. As we grow, you have to change. And sometimes in some areas we did well, we changed. In some areas we didn't change with the time. And in those areas we paid a price. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, we certainly, there's a sort of I think you mentioned this before, which is, you get sort of trapped into this, some of your really early performers who did a great job for you, the team that sort of brought you from 0 to $10 million in revenue and 10 to 50 and then 50 to 250, the skill set is not the same, but you tend to want to reward some of those people who sort of took you through the previous stages, and you got to find the right balance of doing that for sure, but also recognizing when that's not working.
Right. So one of the things I always advise some potential young entrepreneurs to start, obviously when you're starting, you're hiring your friends, and because they are the ones who make, if you're not funding, working with you for free, and it's all wonderful. But how do you make those tough decisions as you grow and you get your first customer and second customer? How do you let your friends know that they are not the one that is going to get to the next level, right? It is that honest conversation. It's very tough to have, and typically you tend to postpone those. So lessons learned from us, especially with people. People is the most important one in building a company, and taking tough decisions or being open and honest, it will save you a lot in terms of building an excellent company.
Yep. Let's move on to the second P that we're going to talk about, which is product.
Yeah.
And the ideation and all of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people we've even earlier today there was, how do you sort of pick the right idea? How many ideas do you go through, and how do you select the idea? I think there was some discussion about, you got many ideas, so how do you select it? And I think for us, both Krish and myself, prior to meeting Krish, I had looked at a lot of different ideas in network and security spaces, but somehow sort of never really got myself to do something more in the security space, although it's a very vibrant, interesting space, and there's always companies there. We all both really came back to this notion of of video. 10 years ago, now with the COVID pandemic, it looks very obvious, but 10 years ago, doing video in the cloud for business customers wasn't obvious at all. People were doing everything on-prem. Consumer video like Skype existed, a bunch of other things like that existed, but it wasn't very obvious. But at that time, Krish and I, this is where some of the shared vision and values and all of that comes in. We felt like there was an opportunity for businesses to use video, and that was just a gut feel, because it was, I had teams that were across multiple geographies. We had used video and then turned off using video during the early 2000s downturn, and I could kind of see the teams drift apart. So I had a strong feeling that video was here to stay. There was nobody really doing a good job on the business side. There was the high-end telepresence type of devices, and then there was consumer Skype. The lower end, there was not that much mass video. So Krish, why don't we talk about how did we come up with the idea and then validate it, in terms of with customers?
The way we thought about it is, hey, we had a belief that video is going to be needed someday. When we look back now, like today, video is like and we have that belief, and within that, we were looking for a unique problem to solve, which is, hey, how do you get everybody to connect independent of format and the interoperability matter? So the way we went about, and I think typically this is what, right? You talk to industry experts, you talk to some customers, and one thing I want to caution everybody, when you talk to customers, they may not exactly know what the market is, what the trend is. What customers typically are, they have a headlight. It's 3 to 6 months. They look at their current pain point. It's really up to the entrepreneurs to look at and say, can we make a industry out of this? Right? This is maybe a feature or product. But one of the other things, lessons learned always in starting a company is every time you look at an idea, it's so easy initially to say this is a great idea. And then it's almost even easier to talk yourself out of that idea because you see other people doing it and you don't know how much you're going to differentiate and so on. So you got to have that conviction that you can, no matter, even if somebody is already in a space, you have to have that conviction that I can actually come up with a bigger, better product. In our case, industry veterans like Cisco and Polycom were already in the market. And for us to have that belief that we are going to do something different, and the more we talked about it, the more customers and analysts engaged with us. They really like the concept. And so some of it you have to go with faith, right? You have some belief, some validation, but you never know. That's the beauty of a startup. You never know.
Yeah, I think we really focused on the customer problem. For us, we felt, what is it going to take to make video as easy as audio? We felt, when you walk into an office or like in a business setting, you invite people to an audio conference call, and you give them a meeting to join with some, phone number to dial. People at that time knew what to do, right? You could walk into a room, within 10 seconds of walking into the room, you could dial a number, punch a meeting ID, get on a call with 5, 10, 20 people around the world. And that was certainly not the case for video. So that was sort of the very simple concept that we said, we want to make video as easy as audio. And as part of that sort of came all of the, problems you needed to solve for that. When you invite somebody for an audio conference call, you don't go ask them what kind of phone they're going to use to dial into that call. it's just going to work. It's not, so we had to solve the interoperability problem, and several other things. And we did some early prototyping. So, Krish, one of the areas is really getting those first few customers.
Yeah.
And I can't stress how important it is for founder-driven sales. And Krish was just king at that. If you can sort of tell us a little bit about some of the early sales to companies like Facebook or Disney, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, customer validation, and how do you actually go and convince your first customer, right, to buy a product when it's 1.0 and so on. And I think, Algau, what you're saying is right. There are going to be customers who actually want to be on the leading edge, on the bleeding edge, right? So you don't have to go and find a Procter & Gamble to sell the first day. There are going to be customers who want to try out new product. So, and that's how you have to do it. And you cannot send your sales guy. Founders are the best salespeople for two reasons. First, they're passionate. They know the product. And more importantly, although what we found when we were selling it, customers see the innovation and they want to get involved with the founder. So that actually helps convince them that, hey, you trust me, I'm going to be, I won't let you down if you come with me, right? They have to see that. And that helps us. And once you get one or two customers, they also are willing to be a reference customer, because they don't want to buy a product and be the only person that bought that product. So they are going to help you get other customers, and that's how you build it. That's how we did it. And you and I have sold together. We went to Disney, we went to Facebook, a lot of different companies. And by the way, some of these companies, even though the market is has Zoom and everything, some of the largest social media platforms and largest industrials have standardized on BlueJeans, because the strength of Algau and myself committing ourselves to building this company, and they see that.
Yeah. So
and the journey. I mean, right now when we look at it, at the end of the day, we built a company, quite successful, and we had our ups and downs, but it was not always so smooth, right? Where even the initial product, how we started, what we started and what we ended up was completely different, even though we executed. Maybe we can turn the subject over to how pivoting happened. Our 1.0 product was not fundable. So maybe what do you think about that? Where you just
I think in several of the previous startup pitches, you heard some founders sort of pivot, and I can tell you one thing. The only I think that I don't know who to attribute this to, but they say the only thing constant is change. Only thing certain is that uncertainty in startups, right? And so you got to basically, deal with change, and for us, we had to deal with that right from the very beginning. We got started BlueJeans around, we started during the financial crisis of, 2008, 2009, and then where we exited like in the COVID crisis. But, during that time, our initial idea was really, to adopt, video in businesses. It was really, we wanted to control the entire user experience. And so we actually had the idea of building hardware along with a cloud service. And that didn't go very far. So our first pivot was very, very early. Maybe you can sort of talk about that, Krish. I mean, that,
Right. So I'll tell you the story, right? Our first pitch to a very big venture firm was on a Monday. Typically, venture firms receive a pitch on Monday. Guess what? The previous Sunday, Lehman had gone bankrupt. So their focus was not on listening to you. The venture firms were like my God, the entire financial industry is in a crisis. Why am I listening to two guys who don't have any experience in video conferencing who wants to build hardware? So it is that type of experience we went through when we started in the financial crisis, but it did not stop us. We constantly had to work our pitch and finally jettison our hardware. And totally, in 2009, when cloud was just a distant technology for a lot of people, I mean, video, we advocated cloud-based video conferencing and went about convincing that. And that was one of our best pivot from a hardware-based solution to a cloud-based solution to get started and convincing everybody that the cloud is the future. So I remember those days. We didn't even know we could process video in the cloud, and somehow you had the idea of how to go about convincing everybody that you can actually process a lot of video in the cloud.
Yeah, and for us, I'll sort of lead up to our second pivot, which actually happened good 20 million in revenue. I think that first pivot was one of the good ones, and it's easier to pivot very early on versus once you've sort of built up a bunch of revenue. So we went about focused on cloud-based conferencing, and the idea was to build something where you could invite people to a call and they could join with whatever software or hardware they had. So if they had large conference rooms with Cisco and Polycom and all of that, they could join a BlueJeans call. And then, you could just dial into a BlueJeans call on a phone. And then the last piece was you could dial into a BlueJeans call using just plain old vanilla Skype consumer client, right? And so that was not something that conceptually we pitched that idea. Everybody loved it. I mean, because everybody was using Skype for their own sort of, talking to their friends and family and all of that. And so they said, oh yeah, if you can make that work, that'll be great. And so we actually pitched that as an idea, but we didn't really know how to make it work. But later on, we did figure out how to make it work. This is where some amount of fortuitous sort of luck also plays in any entrepreneur's journey. At that time, Skype was building this app that was going to run on TVs, the Samsung and other sort of smart TVs. This is talking about 2009. So we convinced them to actually give us that app, and we ended up running it on cloud-based servers and wrapping some software around it and running 200 copies of it. And so when you actually dialed into BlueJeans, you thought you were talking to another Skype on the other side, and that's how we sort of brought it into the cloud. Now all this worked, and then people loved it, and in 2 years we had built $10+ million in revenue, going towards 25, and that's when Skype got acquired by Microsoft, and pretty much within 6 months they canceled the license that we had for our ability to actually do this interop. So imagine that was a very key part of the strategy, the interoperability and ability to, we didn't have our own client. I mean, today BlueJeans has desktop apps and browsers and all of that way to join. At that time, we were a cloud-based service purely, and you would connect to us through hardware or software like Skype. And when Microsoft pulled the license, and we had literally a 12-month time frame to migrate everybody over. I mean, that was a near-death experience for the company. We had to scramble and change our plan and go build a whole client.
I mean, over the journey, we had so many ups and downs, some near-death experience, some missed opportunity. And that, I mean, in one sense, that's all part of the journey, right? The missed opportunity, I would say. If you look at Zoom, the freemium model helped them. We had considered a freemium model many times, but decided that for the market that we had focused, freemium wasn't as interesting. But in retrospective, that's one of the lessons learned is if we had done freemium, it would have been a different outcome. So one of the things that for me, from a lessons learned perspective as we wrap this segment is in your journey, there's so many ideas that come about, business model ideas, product ideas, all that. Yeah, we can do this, we can do that. But it ultimately success comes down to whether can you execute on those ideas. Ideas is 1%, success is 99%. And those companies that are out there successful, BlueJeans and otherwise, it's really, at the end of the day, I would say one of the lessons is focus on the execution. And if you focus on the execution ideas, I really agree with that. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
three things.
You have to focus on the execution, and really, once you've jumped into a market and you feel like it's a pretty good market to be, at that point, you have to really see how the dynamics are changing. Some of the players are changing. I mean, for us, we focused a lot on video earlier on, and as the market started converging into audio, video, and web conferencing all getting converged into one, I think that's an area where we could have done, even more to transition into web conferencing, right?
So I would say, yeah. So I would say, as part of this pivot and wrap this segment, even the idea of selling our company to Verizon, it's a pivot of some kind. It's a change in direction. We were always building the company to be an independent company, take an additional investment. Perhaps we can also try ourselves at an IPO. But with COVID coming in, market dynamic changing, we had to find a partner that can fund and take us to the next level. So the business plan has changed. Our mission hasn't changed. Our mission is to make the best video conferencing application, but now with a well-funded partner. The interesting anecdote I will share is entire negotiation for selling to Verizon, the M&A process of a huge acquisition was done over video. So that just proves why video conferencing is to say that's one of the highlights for us.
Yeah. I haven't gotten on a plane like since January, so. But we're all on lots of back-to-back calls. So Krish, I mean, let's wrapping up, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. I guess Pony or others can see if there's questions. I think just to wrap up from comment from my side, and then one from Krish. I mean, for me, I think we talked about the ideation, the product. We talked about people and pivoting. I think one of the most important things with any startup and entrepreneur's journey is sort of enjoying the journey, and not really sort of putting any of this is like it's a marathon. Don't run it like a sprint and burn yourself out. You can't put the rest of your life on hold. I think family and spending time and all of that. I mean, I think for me, one of the amazing sort of fortunate parts of this, we had a team in India early. I actually made visits to India like every quarter, and I got to see my parents in the weekend. I would always go spend the weekend with them, even though the weekdays were all in Bangalore. So, that's part of, enjoying the journey. I took Krish and I took 3 vacations every, 2 to 3 weeks of vacations every year. You've got to do that. And I think, all that is important. It's all about the journey, not only the destination.
I agree. I mean, this has been my 3rd startup, and by far the longest one, and I think in some way the most enjoyable one. I've seen my children graduate high school, go into college, go into master's degree, and come out and going to work all through the journey. So you got to enjoy that journey as well while you're actually building your company. But if for anybody who wants to try it, I would say if you have an idea, don't have an opportunity, and opportunity is there, go for it. Do not wait. It's a great thing to be an entrepreneur. Right, I'll conclude with that. Thank you.
That's very great. I know that I always have something in my mind. If someone asks you if you want to get on the rocket, just get on. Don't ask what the role is, right? That's
exactly
a great way. Just one probably I'll check if there are any questions from the audience. You said like you're taking a pivot. So then what is next? Just, I know you are still with Verizon and BlueJeans is now taken care of by a bigger organization. What is your next baby? Are you working on anything else?
I would go on
Did I ask?
Tony, you want to get on that train or the plane? Is that the...
I don't care what vehicle it is. I am in.
Speaking personally, I think one of the obligations that we have when a company buys BlueJeans or it's a big acquisition, we have a moral obligation to make that integration successful, and it's successful for Verizon. And you have to dedicate yourself to make that happen, right? Whether it's an exit, so we are focused on making that acquisition successful. What comes after when life after Verizon, I'm sure there is something we have to think about that. You cannot think about it right now while you're trying to make this acquisition successful for Verizon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to what Krish is saying. I mean, I think, this market is just getting started. I mean, you may think like it's already there. There's lots of players. I feel like this mode of operating, post-COVID as well, we're going to be in this hybrid mode. This is how it's going to work, and so there is a lot more opportunity. I have this notion that I'm sort of developing, which is I think the ability to communicate on video is the basic human right. It's like right to food and shelter and protection. The ability to remotely communicate is a basic human right. And so there is a lot more to do here, and we cannot let a couple of companies, control it. I think there has to be, vibrant competition and more things like StreamYard we're using right now, or many other things like that. So there's a lot more to do in this space.
So there is a question from Prakash. So Zoom had a lot of issues, mainly security issues during the pandemic. Did BlueJeans try to pitch themselves as an alternative to Zoom? I know even in India, Indian government were asking for companies to pitch and come up with solution. Was it something you thought about to enter in?
Yeah, I mean, we've from a security point of view, we've been a much stronger provider in this space. I mean, there are many large Fortune 50 companies that are using us. Specifically with India, we struck a very strong partnership with Airtel, one of the largest providers there. So Airtel's video offering is based on BlueJeans, and we're really going after government customers and many different larger companies in the Indian market as well as other global markets. Absolutely.
Right, great. So, I mean, you definitely touched on work-life balance, taking 3 weeks vacation. I don't know if you watched the women panel. Every women entrepreneur was touching on, I have a role of a mom, I have a role of a daughter. 3 weeks vacation is different, and the weekends are different. But Monday to Friday, were you there for your family? Because, especially when both partners are working, it is a challenge if one partner takes, full time for the corporate and then very little for the family. Is that something you had to deal with, or you had a better way of managing?
We had a culture. I called it family first. What it meant was your employee is going to be as successful as and productive only if his or her family is taken care of, and they're whatever. And family issues do not come from only after 5, right? They can be throughout the day. You may have to go to a PTA meeting, you have a doctor's appointment for a child, or you get something else. So we trained our managers and our supervisors and employees to say, take care of the companies behind you. Take care of that without feeling guilty. That's the key. Right, you got to encourage them to take care of that without feeling guilty, and then think everything else will take care of. And then, surely enough, that's one of the cultural values people talk about at BlueJeans, is how a family-friendly culture.
The hire people smarter than you, so they'll help you succeed, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Ram, any question?
No, no questions from me, but I want to thank them, both Algau and Krish, in taking time to come here and share their experiences, because it's very important that our lifetime is not enough to learn from mistakes. Okay, we need to learn from each other, and I think hopefully people who are all listening learn from all of you. Meaning, if you can make that transaction, the entire deal on a video call or a video conferencing, and you are able to close it, I think people will get that confidence that things are possible at this time. And meaning, I work for a financial services company. We all went online in no time, and it all happened due to video conferencing system and Zoom, which we never liked before. Now that's the game in town. So first of all, I want to thank you both in taking time in your busy schedule to come and spend, not only giving us all your experience, but also giving encouragement to that startup showcase and sitting here for the whole thing. So we really, really appreciate from the ATEA team. So thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. My pleasure. Thanks, Algau, for inviting me to be part of the journey here.
No, it's a great
thank you, Ram, and thank you, Pony.
We actually took a break because you both asked questions each other, so it was. But yeah, Algau, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ram, and then Prakash as well, and Pony. We're happy to sort of, this is very important to us in terms of giving back. I mean, people always say, like, how does Silicon Valley work? I mean, it's all about, this type of giving back, and that can be done in this type of remote forums, whether it's under the auspices of the Tamil entrepreneurs or, my alma mater or, other types of farms.
Yep.
There's many ways in which we can, give back.
Yep. So we thank you. We thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Krish, and thank you, Algau. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.